This Israeli government has fallen absolutely into the trap of responding in an over-emotional, rage-fueled manner, which has now led to indiscriminate, endless, ongoing carnage, which is making Israel more and more hated around the world.
How are you guys doing? This is Sahar TV, and I have to say one thing. Finally, someone's pushing Piers Morgan to a corner with difficult questions. Let's see the cast of Triggernometry interviewing Piers on Tommy Robinson, on Israel. Let's go.
What's your issue with Tommy Robinson, Piers? Because obviously he's not well liked in the media ecosystem of London, and he's a controversial figure. He's been involved in street violence and lots of other things. But a lot of people are now saying, and I don't hesitate to say this anymore, a lot of people are now saying he's been proven right about a hell of a lot of things, Piers.
Well, he's certainly not been proven wrong about the grooming gangs. I mean, He was one of the more vocal people about that. There's no question. He's not, as he puts it, the only one that was doing it. There was a very courageous journalist at the Times who recently died, sadly, who led the way with the mainstream media. So it's not true the mainstream media ignored that story, but there was a collective failure of government, of police, and a lot of the media to actually properly go after that scandal. One of the worst scandals of modern times. So that is clear. And Robinson was right about that. I'm not saying he's wrong about everything, but this guy is not the little Mother Teresa walking around in bother boots that he'd like everyone in America to believe. And so many of them have fallen for this mythology about Tommy Robinson. A, his name isn't Tommy Robinson. Probably should send the first alarm bell. B, he's a convicted football hooligan, convicted fraudster. He's been in jail recently, not because he was being silenced from telling the truth about anything, but because he continued to promote and propagate lies about a young Syrian boy, right? And so I watch the way he gets launched.
Propagate lies? He was exposing the truth by making a film that was leaked in a different country, and he got arrested for it for exposing the corrupt system.
Did in America, and I think this is ridiculous. I've challenged him to come on Uncensored again. We had a fiery debate on Good Morning Britain many years ago in which he came on and waved the Quran, which I thought was pathetic, and told him so to his face. So far, he's ducked me. And I think it's because he knows I see through a lot of it. And if he wants to come on and he wants to have a proper sit down with me, and we can get into exactly why he's just been in prison, because it's got nothing to do with what he says he's been a victim of, which is the establishment trying to silence him. No, you lied. You got caught lying. You were told if you lied again, you go to prison for contempt of court. You lied again. You made a film. You promoted it. You came over and promoted it. And you therefore were found guilty of contempt of court, my sunshine. So that's what actually happened.
I can see you trying to wind them up to come on your show.
If Tommy Robinson has the guts, or Stephen Yaxley, as I prefer to call him, because that was the name he actually was given when he was born, then, okay.
Well,
let's sit opposite each other, Tommy, me and you. Oh, you're not Tommy, but Tommy, me and you. And we can have a proper frank debate, because I would actually be quite happy to say to him, on this I think you're right, on that you're right, and on this you're wholly wrong. And I do think that a lot of his view of the Muslim population in this country is driven by genuine Islamophobia. I think he hates Muslims. If he wants to come on and persuade me he doesn't, absolutely no problem. But I'll remind him of all the things he's said and done.
Tommy Robinson and I have the same views, just like Douglas Murray, and we don't hate Muslims. We hate the ideology that preaches killing kuffars, that it's justified to commit jihad, holy war, and all these things. And he can say whatever he wants. The 7/7 bombings came out of Islam. The Ariana Grande stadium bombing came out of Islam. So you can play like they're all innocent and everything is perfectly fine, but Tommy Robinson speaks the truth.
He's coming on the show shortly.
On yours?
Yes.
You little bottle job. So that's about interview number 6. Tommy Robinson, you've done since you said, yeah, let's do it, Piers. Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm still waiting,
Not
son.
to rub it in, but anyway.
Still waiting.
Okay. What's been very interesting watching your journey, Piers, as we move on to talk about Israel is when October the 7th happened, you were a defender of Israel's rights to defend itself and the war in Gaza. And your position has changed the longer the war has been conducted. Why is that?
Because I think what's going on now in Gaza is utterly unconscionable. I think it has nothing to do with the original war aims that they stated, which were to get the hostages back and to eliminate Hamas. Neither of those things have happened. Neither of those things are looking likely to happen. What is happening? Gaza is being completely destroyed. I mean, 70% has already been destroyed. The population has been
70% that's been destroyed is a false allegation that is not correct. 70% has been damaged or destroyed. Damaged meaning the building could still be standing up, but there's scratches on it. So it's not 70% flattened. That's just a lie.
crammed into various small areas now. And even as they queue for food on a daily basis, they're getting shot dead. And the IDF, every time it's 20, 30, 40 people queuing desperately for food. All they say is, A, we're giving them loads of food. So why are thousands of people stampeding for food if they're so overfed? And secondly, they say, well, we just fired warning shots. We had a couple of people threaten us. We've launched an inquiry. We're doing an investigation. It's a familiar pattern. I got all the answers to all of these incidents at the aid queues, and it was very damning.
So, Piers, just a question for you because you love claiming that. How come nobody's got a single video of a soldier shooting civilians at the aid distribution centers? How come? How come? How come all the videos are people doing this, filming themselves with sound effects in the background? How come? How come? It's one of the most documented places in Gaza. How come nobody has a single video evidence of soldiers shooting intentionally civilians? How come? How come? I want to know.
I read it out to one of the pro-Israeli guests I had. So I think that you should believe people when they say what their intent is. Smotrich in the Israeli government, incredibly far right, along with Ben-Gvir. And I think Netanyahu's gone this way too. He's been influenced by them in a very, very damaging way. I think that he said about 3 weeks ago that the plan was to cleanse Gaza of all Palestinians, right? That's clearly what they're trying to do now. That's a war crime. That's ethnic cleansing. So, yeah, I absolutely support Israel at the start of this with their, not just right, but their duty to defend Israelis from any further attacks by Hamas. Unquestionably. What happened on October 7th, one of the worst things I've ever had to report on in my life as a journalist. But that does not give them the license now, where we are right now, to just continue slaughtering so many children in particular on a daily basis as they go after, I don't know how many Hamas are left. I mean, the American intelligence says for every one they're killing, there are 5 more coming through with the same ideology. How could it not be that? I mean, given the scale of carnage in Gaza right now, how do they think Israel, the government, not the people, but how does the Israeli government think this is going to make anything safer for Israelis? It's not. Is it going to make life safer for Jews around the world? It's not. It's going to make it more dangerous. Have they got the hostages out? No. Is the indiscriminate bombing that's going on day after day after day after day, is that likely to end up with other hostages of the remaining hostages who are alive? And of course they should be released. But we're dealing with a terrorist group. But are they going to be more at risk from this relentless bombing that's going on or not? I would say they are. So I just put it all together and I can't defend this. And I've noticed we're having more and more trouble getting pro-Israeli voices on who are prepared to actually unreservedly defend this. There are some, but a lot of the ones that were very vocal to start with no longer want to do it. And I just wonder what the average Israeli thinks about what is happening in their name. Because if this was happening here,
I'm an average Israeli. I don't think the Israeli government is starving anybody. They have been documented pouring their bags of flour on the ground to put some Nutella and chocolate and other goods, meaning that they're not starving. If they want to take the goods and not the flour, which is the basic necessity for food, for nutrition, it just proves to you that nobody is starving in Gaza. People could be starving for different reasons, but not because of Israel. I think Israel is doing everything in their power to bring back the hostages. That's one objective, and dismantle Hamas. Hamas has lost about 85% of their leadership. They're crumbling to the ground. They're losing control of the Gaza Strip. So Israel should continue to do exactly that because Israel is never allowed to finish wars.
I can assure you the British people would not put up with it. They just would not accept this being done in their name. It is unconscionable, the scale of what's going on there. They are destroying the whole of Gaza, and they want to displace every Palestinian into neighboring Arab countries. I mean, I don't know what you two think of that, but are you comfortable with them doing that?
Well, I'm not comfortable with the scale of the casualties that are happening. I don't think anybody is comfortable with that, Piers. It's obviously awful. I guess my question to you is, what should Israel do in this instance? Because you have Hamas, who are a terrorist organization, who are fundamentalist in their nature, who will not capitulate, who will not surrender, who are very happy and delighted, let's be honest, to put their own civilians and their own family members, in fact, in the way of fire.
Yeah.
So you have an enemy that will not surrender at any point, who will always remain a direct threat to you. So what should Israel do in that instance?
Well, look at what they did with Hezbollah. You know, a very similar ideology to Hamas. Right? What do they do with Hezbollah? They planned meticulously one of the most brilliant strategic military campaigns against a terror group ever seen, where for many years they formulated a plan to get pages into their hands and other devices which exploded at a signal. And they took out 3,000 of them. Right? Unbelievably surgical in its precision. Look at what they did with Iran. Right? They didn't just indiscriminately start bombing Tehran. They, again, had a very well planned out campaign, short, in Iran against the nuclear scientists, against the nuclear program, against nuclear sites. They persuaded the Americans to come in. It was all over in 10 days. Everyone was presuming it would be like apocalyptic World War III. Never happened. So Israel has unbelievable resources, militarily, intelligence through Mossad and others. No one can tell me that any of this makes sense. And I'll go back further to the start of all this, 2005-6, when Hamas are given power in Gaza and Israel pulls out. From that moment on, Israel, through Netanyahu, funneled billions of dollars to Hamas, right? They used most of that money to build a very sophisticated underground tunnel system.
Just to be clear, this funding wasn't supposed to be for Hamas. It was aid meant to go to the civilians, but they took that money and used it for terror activities.
For 20 years. Then 3,000 of them on October the 7th pour over the border in 3 waves over a number of hours. They kill 1,200. They wound nearly 7,000. They kidnap over 250. How did Mossad not know any of this was going to happen? These are the people that can put 3,000 pages into Hezbollah hands. These are the people that can be so precise in Iran. So no one can tell me that this makes any sense.
So, Piers, what are you implying?
What I'm implying is, I think what you're seeing in Gaza is a rage-fueled revenge for October the 7th. And I think that's exactly what Hamas wanted Israel to do. I think they lured Israel's government, knowing there were a bunch of very far-right hotheads on that government, Ben-Gvir, Smotrich and others. I think they deliberately lured them into a trap.
Yet we're still not seeing a far-right response. A far-right response would be to completely destroy Gaza, would be to kill hundreds of thousands of people. Now, if the United States would have dealt with the same situation, they would have bombed a lot harder. They would have bombed a lot harder. They would have treated Hamas in a much harsher way. But because Israel is under the international community's eyes and people always judge them and say, what are you doing? Why would you do this? It's a genocide, apartheid, ethnic cleansing. So Israel is working its way in a slow manner in order to eliminate Hamas.
Knowing that their own fighters could hide in the tunnels, quite happy, as you said, despicable terror group, to let the civilians get killed in the slaughter, which they knew would bring global opprobrium against Israel's government. But they lured them in with the scale of what they did. And Israel, to me, this Israeli government has fallen absolutely into the trap of responding in an over-emotional, rage-fueled manner, which has now led to indiscriminate, endless, ongoing carnage, which is making Israel more and more hated around the world. None of this, to me, makes any strategic sense in terms of how they could have responded to October the 7th and should have responded. Now,
it doesn't matter what military action we take ever, we're always hated by the international community. So, if you're asking me, what do we prefer? Being loved by the world, but having the risk of dying every single day by Hamas and its terror proxies around? Or to eliminate Hamas and be hated by the world? I choose option 2, every day.
I don't have all the answers, right? I've had lots of other people who floated solutions and answers. But I do know that there's a lot of will on the part of countries like Saudi Arabia who want to do, normalization of relations with the Abraham Accords with countries like Israel. But they can't do it when this is going on. This is putting back everything. And for what? What are they actually trying to achieve? And then it comes down to, are they actually trying to achieve the original aims they set out? I would argue, as I have done, that that's no longer a plausible argument. And I think we should take them at what they're saying. Smodrich has made it clear. He's a finance minister. He's not some insignificant member of the government. He's a leading driving force. He was on camera 3 weeks ago. We want to cleanse Gaza of all Palestinians. And if that happens, it will be one of the most grotesque war crimes of modern times. So the question for all of us is, what do we do about this? Right? Do you stay silent and watch this happen and literally watch Palestinians, 2 million of them, expelled from Gaza, never to come back? I mean, once you're gone, you're never coming back. Mm-hmm. And Israel to then take over that land? Is anybody happy with that? I'm not.
Piers, the reason I asked you what you were implying is I don't understand the point you're making when you... I've heard a lot of people say this, but I don't understand what you mean when you say, how come the Mossad didn't know?
How did they not know?
But what are you saying? I don't understand.
I'm just asking the question. How could the most sophisticated intelligence operation in the world, reputedly, and I think that's, as we've seen from Iran and Hezbollah, clearly.
Starting with the conspiracies, huh, Piers?
Clearly.
But those are proactive things. That's
okay,
different.
But actually, they're very pre-planned things.
Yeah, right? So that's fair. No, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
Well, I'm not saying anything. I'm just asking a question, right? I'm not saying that they knew anything.
Okay.
I'm actually saying that for some inexplicable reason, they missed this.
How come the CIA, one of the most sophisticated intelligence group in the world, missed on 9/11? How come the SIS in Britain, one of the most sophisticated intelligence groups in the world, missed the 7/7 attacks or the Ariana Grande stadium concert bombing? That's just shifting the blame, and that's very annoying.
Who is continuing to prosecute this war, in my opinion, is because he knows the day of reckoning for him is coming when it's over. Not just for allowing this to happen on his watch, but also for him personally with the corruption charges he's facing in a criminal courtroom. So there is no incentive for Netanyahu to end this. If anything, his popularity with a lot of, there's a lot of right-wing Israelis, that his popularity has risen with sections of Israeli community because of the constant warfare. But that in itself is an extremely unhealthy drug, right? So I'm not saying for a moment, as some conspiracy theories do, well, Mossad knew anything. I'm not saying that for a moment. But what a...
So why are you touching your nose, Piers?
Spectacular dropping of the ball right on their doorstep. And it's inexplicable. They have to explain how...
By the way, I touched my nose because he touched his, so it was like a copy-paste effect, okay? I'm not touching my nose because I'm lying. Oh my God, how do I get out of it?
They didn't know anything about the tunnel systems, or if they did, why they didn't realize what the plan was. There are literally people, it's a bit like when 9/11 happened. There were people working at the Pentagon who had one job, to think the unthinkable about terror attacks. All they had to do, right? Was it that unthinkable that if you knew Hamas were building tunnels, they must have done. 20 years they were building hundreds of miles of tunnels. If you knew they were building tunnels, that nobody thought, well, I wonder what they're planning, and tried to find out, because that's what Mossad are supposed to do. So I simply...
Mossad are supposed to operate abroad, nothing to do with Gaza. The Shin Bet is supposed to operate inside territories of Gaza or Judea and Samaria, not the Mossad. He's conflating the two.
Ask the question, how did you not know?
No, I think it's a very important question, obviously, and I'm sure it'll be asked in Israel when the war is over. And I think we just had Andrew Foxon here, who's a pro-Israel guy, saying this war should have ended a few months ago.
I think there's a growing sentiment.
I agree with you. I agree that there's a growing sentiment. But I also think that your point about 9/11 kind of makes the point that the intelligence operations, they only have to be wrong once and then a great disaster happens, and we've seen them happen all over the place, and they do happen. So I don't think it's as unimaginable as you're saying. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, and it's just, we're exploring the arguments. Why, you've used the phrase indiscriminate bombing repeatedly. Why do you say it's indiscriminate?
I'll give you an example. Say they get information there's one Hamas terrorist. Well, I saw Dave Smith use this analogy, so let me give him the credit for it. If somebody murdered one of your family, okay? Horrible hypothetical, but let's assume this has happened. And you get told that one of the people who was responsible is living in a tower block with 150 people in it. Do you think it's justified to go and blow up the whole tower block and kill 149 innocent people as you kill the one person who is responsible for the loss you suffered?
Is he taking into account the countless telegrams that are being sent to people to leave and evacuate? Is he including the millions of text messages? Is he including the phone calls? Is he including the knock-knock bombs to warn civilians? So you don't just bomb the building with everybody inside. You warn them.
There's a calculation in the laws of war where there has got to be some proportionality. There's got to be some taken of account.
Do you think there's been any proportionality now in Israel's response?
Well, what
I mean, 1,200 people got killed.
What I'm asking you
over the 7th. We're now up to maybe as many as 100,000.
But Piers, with all respect, that's
the Gaza Health Ministry is saying that it's 60,000 without accounting the 20 to 25,000 Hamas members that were killed since October the 7th, without accounting the 10,000 people that died from natural causes such as cancer, old age, other diseases, or rockets that fell from Hamas and Jihad inside their territories. They're never including that to make sure that the number looks big. So yes, the number is incredibly low.
terrible argument. Because,
is it?
Yeah.
Is
yeah,
it?
That's a terrible argument.
I don't think it is.
It is, because way more Germans were killed at the end of World War II than British people were killed, and yet we bombed Germany into the ground because we were defeating them, right? I think that is a terrible argument, but I'm trying to find out why you say it's indiscriminate. Indiscriminate means they don't care if they're just bombing a civilian building, they're just trying to flatten Gaza. Is that what you think is happening?
70% of Gaza has been flattened.
Yes.
In what way would you not think that suggests a degree of indiscriminate bombing?
The reason that people would challenge the idea of it being indiscriminate, for example, Andrew Fox, as I mentioned, who has a very nuanced view of this, as we found out, he was saying that when he was in Gaza, what he saw was that Hamas adapted their tactics as the war went on, and when they realized that the Israeli IDF was going house to house, they then did the evacuation themselves. They pulled the civilians out and then booby-trapped every single building. So the destruction of a lot of buildings is evidence of the fact that a lot of them are booby-trapped, and that's why they're being destroyed.
I'm sure some of them were.
He made the point that more bombs have been dropped on Gaza than the number of people who've been killed in Gaza, which kind of tells you that it's his argument, not indiscriminate. So that's the only reason I'm asking. And I'm genuinely just wondering.
I've read some of the 5-6 times as many bombs have been dropped in totality than the total power of the 2 nuclear bombs dropped in Japan. I mean,
Yet you still have a much lower death toll in Gaza in 2 years than in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where in Hiroshima you had 100,000 people who died in one night because of a bomb, proving to you that if it's 8 times more, we're supposed to be in the millions of death casualties, of death toll.
You know, what is indiscriminate? To me, you can argue that indiscriminate means you don't care at all.
Guys, I'm going to stop this video right here and include the full video in the description below so you can watch it on Triggernometry. I don't want to take their views away. I just wanted to take a specific part that I liked. So please watch it and subscribe to Triggernometry. They're amazing. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you'd like to support me financially, you can do that using Buy Me Coffee or Patreon. Please don't forget to join the Discord, and you can now become a YouTube member and enjoy specific YouTube perks. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye.